Oh my gosh. Oh, of course. Okay. Okay. All right. I think she's fine. Hi. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ruthanne, and I'm really happy you're here. I'm really happy you're here. I have never done YouTube before, which is actually kind of crazy because I have been obsessed with social media since its inception. I remember exactly where I was and what I shared when Instagram Stories was launched, believe it or not. And I think that falls under like tell me you're a Zillennial without telling me you're a Zillennial. But I love social media, and I love social media for the fact that it allows us the opportunity to connect with people and to meet people we would have otherwise never crossed paths with, and that it gives us the chance to be inspired and empowered to change our lives and live our lives differently and experience new things and meet new people and all of the things that go with, following somebody's life on the internet. And while I could tiptoe around this a little bit differently, I am just kind of a straight shooter, so I'm going to call it like it is. This video is a bid for your subscription. It's a bid for your attention, if you will. That sounds really terrible, but there's a lot of different things on the internet. There's a lot of different people you could pay attention to and, give your time to and your views and all of that. And why do you care about me unless I tell you about who I am and what I'm about? And so that is what this video is for. This is to give you a glimpse into the person that I am and the things that I am excited about and the things that I hope to talk about on this channel and unpack and connect with you over and all of those things. So I figured we would just start from the beginning, and I would give you a overview of who I am and why I'm here and why you might want to listen to me. And if I'm not your cup of tea, that is totally okay. But I think that especially now more than ever, it's important that we fill our feeds, because social media is not going anywhere. The internet's not going anywhere. It's really important we fill our feeds with people who are in alignment with like the kind of lives that we want to live or the people we want to be. And that's not to say that I am some like amazing person to be a role model necessarily, but I will take ownership of the fact that my life has been somewhat unique. And over the last few years specifically, I've had some really crazy experiences that have led me to some like transformational ways of thinking that I don't think we talk about enough. So like I said, my name is Ruthanne. It is all one word with an E. I do not go by Ruth. If you call me Ruth, I won't get mad at you, but I will be like, hey, that's not my name. And the reason for that is actually very personal. I was named after my grandmother, who passed away 6 weeks before I was born. And while, names for some people are like just a name, right? Like there's some people you could meet, an Alex who could also be a John maybe, or a Sarah who could have been an Emily. But like for me, my name is so deeply personal because I was named after a woman I never knew. And that was like always in the back of my head as a little kid. I thought about her constantly, and I always wondered what she was like and what it would have been like to know her and to do life with her and all of those things. And so my name is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. And it's a big piece of who I am, and I think it's shaped me a lot because as a 5-year-old kid who was named after her dead grandma when grandma names were not cool in a world of Ashleys and Emilys and Sarahs and Kates and all of those names, I stood out like a sore thumb. I felt so isolated and alone many, many times because of my name, and I had two choices. I could either grow to love it, or I could decide that I didn't want to embrace it, and that would have been a totally different path. So I've embraced my name fully, but again, it is Ruthanne, all one word with an E, and I'm really glad that you're here. I was born in Lake Tahoe, California. I have lived here my entire life. I've never left, and a lot of people would assume that makes me like closed-minded and maybe not as like experienced or cultured or whatever. But I was also homeschooled, and being homeschooled was something that lent itself to a lot of flexibility in our lives. As a homeschooling family, we traveled a lot, we saw a lot of things, we experienced a lot of things. And as I entered adulthood, I think I flew by myself for the first time at like 16 to see a friend in Texas. And that was just kind of like the beginning of my travel bug syndrome of just like, where can I go? How often can I go? And really like getting that autonomy and being able to see what life was like in other places was something that I just started to crave. And so I traveled a lot. And so while I have lived in the same place my entire life, I don't think that my perspective is closed-minded or short-sighted. I really pride myself in being able to say that like I've been to a lot of places, I've seen a lot of things, I've experienced many different cultures, I've met people from all over. Most of my friends, in fact, don't even live here, which that could probably say something else about me. Or maybe it just means that I love making connections with people who feel like home, and home is not necessarily a place, it's a feeling. So so I was homeschooled. I grew up in Lake Tahoe. I had a really awesome childhood of adventure and exploration and independence, and just like the ability to express myself and explore things that I liked and enjoyed. And being that I was homeschooled, there were a lot of things that we did differently. It wasn't as like widely accepted when I was a kid to homeschool your kids or to have been homeschooled. Everybody thought that we were just like a cult that wore long denim dresses like the Duggars, and that was not the case at all. We had a lot of free time and a lot of really cool experiences, and I was given so many opportunities to explore things that I truly loved and to take those into life with me. So when I turned 17, right after my 17th birthday, or 6 months later, I graduated high school and I started a photography business, and I became a photographer. That was kind of like my thing. I also was a full-time nanny from the get-go, like from the time that I was done working on school and being in school, I like worked. And I've never really worked for anybody else. The only jobs that I've ever held is I did retail for like 9 months with a company that was never made for me. I worked in a restaurant that I loved and thought was so fun, but not really sustainable for my lifestyle, and I was a nanny. And so all three of those things really gave me flexibility, but I've never done corporate. I don't have a college degree. I have a almost 2-year associate's degree that I couldn't finish and get because I couldn't pass stats class. I tried 3 times and it just wasn't for me. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to go do my own thing. So maybe I should be more bothered by that, but I just simply am not. So I've owned my own business for the last long time, 13 years. And it has been a wild ride. It has been an absolute journey. Growing up where I grew up and in the family that I grew up in, something else that I should note is that I am the oldest of 5 kids. So I've always been like the responsible one, the mature one. I always like had it together, and I am stereotypical oldest child, oldest girl. There is no doubt about it. And I have a very fierce sense of independence. I am somebody that just really is like, what do you need me to do? I'll go and I'll figure it out. And as I, grew up and started a business and also had friendships as a kid were really interesting for me. I had really close friends, but I always felt left out. I always struggled feeling like I wasn't part of the crew, like I didn't belong. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that is a very, typical experience, but something for me that I've always craved is like, what does it feel like to feel like you belong in a group of people? And over the last handful of years, I've been really like sorting that out as an adult, because I still think that quite often. I'm also married. I guess I should mention that. My husband and I have been together for 8 years, married for 7. That is a great story that we will tell at some point, I am sure. And he is just like my best friend. He is amazing. We have worked very hard for the relationship that we have, and it has not come easy. Some days are easier than others. If you know, you know. But I'm really proud of the relationship and the marriage that we have built. I have a dog. Her name is Sasha. She is probably going to come rambling in here at some point during recording this, and we're not going to stop her because she is her own weather pattern, and you will see that. I have experienced some pretty intense grief over the last couple of years. My last dog passed away pretty tragically, which I'm going to get into in a second because it's a big part of my story and where I am now. And I guess the reason that I'm here is because I have been on this journey of rediscovering myself and discovering getting to know my inner child again at 26, 27, 28, 29 years old. And it has changed my life. It has totally changed my life. And so that is kind of what this channel is for. I really want to help women see what girlhood as a grown-up can be. And you hear the word girlhood and you oftentimes think of like childhood or just like silliness or maybe like sleepovers or being left out if you were like me. Like I never really related to the term girlhood as I saw it, on social media and in people's posts and stuff. I'd be like, oh, that's nice. I don't have that. I just don't. Like, my best friend lives in Connecticut and I am in California. That is not very conducive to girlhood as you see on TikTok and Instagram. But in 2022, I guess we'll like back up a little bit. So I got married, and at the time of getting married, my photography business, I was kind of like struggling. I had gotten into weddings. I didn't really enjoy them. And I had some experiences that just let me know that it wasn't meant for me. And so I had kind of like put my photography business on the back burner and worked in a restaurant for a little bit and was nannying full time, which I had always done. I had always nannied. And after my husband and I got married, we eloped on top of a mountain at sunrise. I was like, wait 1 second, this was so fun. I could help other people do this too. And that unlocked this like crazy journey over the last 6.5 years of creating a business that does exactly that, that creates these unique one-of-a-kind experiences for couples who want to get married on top of a mountain, or, you know, in Hawaii or in the Dolomites or wherever you may want to go. I am really good at helping pull those things together, and it's been a whirlwind. So, 2020, the pandemic hits and nobody can get married the way that they thought they were. And so my business just spikes. Like, I was right place, right time. I was already on the scene. I had been doing it for 3 years at that point, and it just took off. It just took off. And it was phenomenal and it was really cool, but I experienced a lot of growth that I didn't know how to handle and I wasn't quite prepared for. And so, my business grew and I had these incredible years, and I just was like thriving in the sense of like, how much money I was making, really, that's it. But I wasn't really thriving in like my personal life, and it wasn't necessarily like my relationship. It was like my relationship with myself and the things that I was doing and the ways that I was spending my time and the intention I had behind things, and all of that was kind of like second thought. And so going into 2022, I had these visions for like doubling my income and really crushing it and all these things, right, that you have as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. And in February of 2022, my dog Scout was killed by a pack of coyotes. And my whole life came crashing down. Like, the amount of trauma and devastation I experienced, which, if you hear that and think like, oh, that's silly, it was just a dog, or you don't really understand, that is okay. But it was an experience unlike anything I've ever had, and it wrecked me to my core. I'm sure at some point I'll record like a whole video kind of detailing that, or not detailing it, but like kind of talking about that experience. But what you need to know is we were living on my parents' property at the time in a tiny house. I was by myself because my husband was out of town for work, and it was super late at night, and I was the one that found her by myself. And it was just this like crazy reckoning of my independence, my tough girl mindset, my I can do anything personality. And I had spent 26 years not needing anybody and putting up this facade like I didn't need anybody. I was very non-emotional. I didn't cry easily. I, really prided myself on being like the problem solver and the friend in the group that always knows what to do, and not having drama in my own life and all of these things. And then all of a sudden this thing happens and my whole world comes crashing down, and it's like, well, crap. I don't really know what to do with this. And I was a shell of myself for probably 9 months, if not more. It took a long time. It took a long time to even start to come out of the fog and really reconcile the grief. And going back to having been named after my grandma, in my dog's passing, I was able to kind of identify this familiar feeling that I had that nobody had ever named for me, and that was grief. It was this ache that I had within me, as a kid, to know my grandma and to know what she would have been like, and missing moments that I never experienced and wouldn't get to experience, and all of that stuff. I felt like the familiarity in grieving my dog Scout, and I started to kind of see the ways that as a small child, I put on this front of, I got it, it's good, I'll take care of myself. And there's actually a photo, I'll find it and put it up on the video here. There's a photo of me at like 2 or 3, and I'm holding a baby doll, and I've got my hand up like, no, I got it. And I saw that photo, I'm gonna get emotional for a second. I saw that photo probably like a year after my dog died, and was like, oh my gosh, little Ruthanne, just right away immediately knew that that was a external picture of the internal walls that I was already building and I was already so fiercely creating. And so, as I began to navigate my grief and my loss, a lot of other things kind of came to the surface and had to be dealt with. There were relationships that changed and evolved or ended. My marriage changed and evolved and did not end, but there were a lot of things that changed from that experience because the person my husband had married was not the person standing in front of him, and I was reconciling these parts of myself that I had literally not seen in 22 years. These parts of little baby Ruthanne that I put away because it felt safer to do that. And I had to lean on people that I had never wanted to rely on before, that I had never wanted to let see me vulnerable before. I'm an Enneagram 8, if you know what that is. If you don't, we'll talk about the Enneagram at some point because I love it. But I really just kind of reached this point of like, okay, here we go. Like, I guess I have to bear all. And when I got my wisdom teeth out at 17, I cried for like a week. And my mom joked that it was the last 17 years of tears leaving my body because of the meds. And after I got over the initial horror of my grief and my experience, I started to make that same joke again that, my grief in this loss unlocked the last 15 years of undealt with things. And I really do feel that way. I cry so much now. I am very in tune with my emotions. I would tell you I'm emotional now, which in the past, like, I would have never let you know that I was emotional because that feels vulnerable and like you could control me. And now I know that it is a strength and not a weakness. And again, that's another conversation for another day. But that was a big catalyst for me. So losing Scout kind of kickstarted me into the last few years of just craziness and at times utter chaos. So she passed away in February of 2022, and she passed away on the day that I was launching a course, an educational course for my photography business. I launched it on February 17th. The 17th is my favorite number, or 17 is my favorite number, I should say. And it has always been. 17 has always marked really beautiful, good things for me. And so when she died on my favorite number, I was like devastated, and I was, to be perfectly frank with you, angry as all get out. Like, I was so pissed. I was like, this is so messed up. This is so cruel. Like, why would this happen to me? And that led into just a lot of like anger and processing. And then all of a sudden I started seeing 217 everywhere, like everywhere. Hotels, invoice numbers, receipts, totals. I would see the clock at 217. People would call me at 217, like all these sorts of things that just were really interesting, and really indicative of kind of like the little signs that I needed to get through. But where I'm going with all of that is I was launching this course that I thought was going to be, kind of part of the ticket to me doubling my income and changing my life and doing all these things. And literally right before midnight, my dog was killed by coyotes on this day. And it was like this big 180 and this big shift of like, okay, what are we doing? And to be perfectly honest with you, I felt like it was a big FU from the universe being like, nope, not for you. Sorry, like try again next time. And that was kind of like the beginning of this like downward spiral. And this, I'd been going up, and then all of a sudden it just felt like there was a cliff and everything just fell off. And so 2022 was a more mellow year for my business, which made sense because I was grieving. I was not myself. I was not putting in the same kind of work. 2023 was absolutely just really hard. Weddings were on a downward trend. People were starting to hold their money tighter. Inflation was on its way up, all of those things. 2024, you've lived it, it was also it's not been great thus far, and kind of a similar experience there. And so in this, identity crisis of like, oh, I'm no longer like the business owner that is just like making it work and making tons of money and becoming like super successful. Anytime like I snap my fingers, I had to like go deep. And in my healing and my grief, I had to figure out something different. I had to do something different because the way that I had handled all bad or hard things in my life prior to that moment was not going to work. I had never found my dog passed away in the woods at 11:45 at night due to a coyote attack. Like, this called for a different strategy. And I knew that. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it had to be different. And so my process of healing really looked like just trying anything and everything. I did therapy. I did literally everything. Anything you could think of, I did. But the one thing that changed my life and that changed my grief and my grieving process was walking. And I started walking every single day. I would do the exact same loop again and again and again and again. And about 6 months after she passed away, we bought a house, which is the house that we live in now. And that was really when my walking kind of started. We got our dog Sasha shortly after Scout passed away. And I was distracted and I was trying to figure out my business and just getting through bookings and all of that sort of stuff. But when we moved into our house, like, everything kind of got quiet and I had to sit with myself for a minute. And I was like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. And so that's when I started walking. And I started walking every single day, multiple times a day. And I just did the same thing over and over and over again. And when you do the same thing over and over and over again, you start to notice things that you haven't been paying attention to in the past because you've been too distracted by the differences, by the unique experiences you're having. And I started to see the nuance in the person that I was and the things that I was missing and the parts of myself that I didn't know any longer, and the joy that I wanted to so desperately reach out and grasp but didn't know how. And so walking turned into mushroom foraging, turned into watercolor painting, turned into pulling out my sewing machine again, turned into all of these things that led to reclaiming parts of my inner child, my inner girlhood, my joy. And all of a sudden I felt alive again. And it was a really wild experience. And you might laugh at me for this. If you follow me on Instagram, you have watched it. But, so this is like the end of 2022 into like mid 2023. I kind of have this like year of just really settling back into myself and getting to know myself again. And then hits the summer of Barbie and Taylor Swift. And I'm not even kidding you when I say that changed my life again. It changed my life again. And the reason that it changed my life again is because going back to childhood, I was the tough kid. I always was girly. Like, I loved dress up. I loved babies. I loved makeup. I loved all of those things. But somewhere along the way, I kind of lost those things because of who I, was friends with in high school, or the way that I wanted to be taken seriously. I grew up in like a camping, fishing family. So, we did a lot of like boy things in like playing in the dirt, and I love deep sea fishing, and I'm really good at deep sea fishing, but I always would worry about my credibility. If I was like pink and girly, would they take me as seriously? Like, if you're a girl, you get it. And so along the way in childhood and young adulthood, I started to put away these parts of myself to be perceived a certain way and to be perceived as the persona that I felt was safest, which was like the tough chick, non-emotional, takes care of business, doesn't need any help. And that manifested in like, becoming a super granola girl and not wearing the color pink, and just really rejecting all of my femininity. And so the summer of Barbie and Taylor Swift happens. The Eras Tour, the Barbie movie is launched. Pink is everywhere. Purple is everywhere. Sparkles, glitters, sequins, all the things. And I am like, oh my gosh, I actually kind of love this. And I remember we went to a John Mayer concert in April of 2023, and I wore a pink shirt for the first time in years, literal years, and posted a picture on Instagram on my stories because I was so excited. I'm a big John Mayer girl. And I got dozens of responses of people being like, you are so like, you're glowing right now. And I didn't feel like I had done anything different. All I had done was put on a color. I put on a color that wasn't green or beige or burnt orange or anything like that. And I showed up as myself. And that leading into that summer just kind of kickstarted this love of the color pink and rediscovering it. I used to love pink. I wore it all the time when I was, in middle school and high school. And then, really kind of kept going into feeling comfortable, being honest about the fact that I'm a big Swiftie. I love Taylor Swift. I have always loved Taylor Swift, but I was kept it under wraps because I didn't want to be perceived as a ditz or as a dumb girl or, anything like that. And so it really just led into all of these little moments that gave me the opportunity to challenge what I thought about something in comparison with what I was worried other people thought about me and what really mattered. And And now here I am sitting in front of you with my Taylor Swift Marjorie quote, a pink disco ball, my pink sweatshirt, my pink wall. And I am like at the ultimate iteration of girly girl in my life right now. And, you know, that has been a really interesting journey. It's been really funny for a lot of people to watch. Some people be like, wow, you are so different. Like, what happened? Or they just think that I have been possessed and brainwashed by Taylor Swift, which, like, you know, we are never beating the cult allegations. It is fine. I am a little bit. But all that to say, this journey that I have had from grief into where I am now in what I think is like the ultimate expression of myself. I feel the most myself I ever have. I have a closet full of clothes that I love. I am enjoying playing with makeup again. I am honest about the things that I enjoy and the experiences I want to have. I hiked 150 miles of the PCT this year. I hiked 170 miles around Lake Tahoe last year. I have not compromised or sacrificed the parts of myself that are authentic to preserve, you know, the way that you think about me. I have instead found a way to let all things be true and hold space for the nuance of who I am as a person, as a woman, as a girl, as somebody who wants to step into my feminine power. And so all that to say, this channel is really, it's here to help you discover that for yourself. I do not think that girlhood is just pink and sparkles and glitter and Taylor Swift and, you know, all the things. I think that girlhood is really finding confidence and peace and just like true belonging in who you are, and who you were made to be, and who you show up as authentically, and who you are when nobody is watching. And that's so cliche to say, I know, but it has changed my life to embrace all parts of myself, not just the parts of myself that I think are going to earn me the most credibility or respect, to embrace all parts of myself. And it is been one of the coolest journeys of my entire life. So welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope you subscribe. I hope you come hang out with me. My plan is to do vlogs, to do talking head videos like this. I want to do like podcast style interviews. I want to bring my husband on because he's hilarious and wonderful. And just in general, really create a space to talk about the things that matter to me, but that I also think have the power to like change your life. So thanks for being here. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, all the stuff. You can find me on Instagram at Miss Ruthanne, and I will see you next time.